Well, we started off with Nigeria's former High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Christopher Kolade. He spoke on the leadership question and how best we can rebuild the nation. And of course, this morning we also saw former President Olusegun Obasanjo write in his memoir. A whole lot has been said. Well, in that same light, rebuilding the nation, we're not being joined by the former Director General of the News Agency of Nigeria, Ike Oshintoku. He's also a PDP member. I like to put that. Well, good morning and thanks for joining us. Well, when we talk about the leadership question, a whole lot will make meaning to some people. Some have accused politicians, which you're now a politician, of not doing what we should expect of them. And sometimes politicians are also divided. Comment statements amongst themselves, even within the same political party. We have had different comments and statements to the extent that the people say they're a little bit confused as to what direction some of our leaders have actually been leading us on. What's your reading of some of these things happening, especially as a close watcher and a participant?
Thank you. Since 1966, confusion, distortion, incomprehensibility has been built into the Nigerian system. The Nigeria that emerged after the war in 1970 was a product of the philosophy of might is right. It wasn't predicated on logic. The first republic that was adopted in 1966 was dismantled not because the system was not working, not because there was any fault with it. And there was a lot of logic, there was a lot of reasoning that went into, designing or recommending that kind of a structure for Nigeria. It made the best sense. The logical was sensible. And we remained largely what we were before 1966. I doubt if the kind of problems we're having now will have it. You cannot garbage in, garbage out. People talk about a lot of leadership. Something produces that. And the system itself is structurally rigged against rationality. Right? You have a center that is all powerful, that was a production of this military dictatorship syndrome and the kind of the system that emerged after the war. So the concept, when that happened, it de-emphasized the concept of service at the national level. When Nigeria was doing well, people, what you refer to as the golden age of Nigeria's political history was the First Republic. And it had a wash-over effect through the 70s. By 1980, Nigeria seems to have entered a phase that we are in now. And it's going to go on deep. No matter who becomes the president, our people talk about all these kind of things. Very little will change. Because the kind of questions you'll be called to answer, they will not be able to do so. The kind of impunity, the kind of impunity that you have, right? People will find it difficult to do it at a lower level. If you have a government that are not satellites of the federal government. There are a lot of things that should be done, right? That is only what they call tough love. If I have to administer poison to you, I'm sorry, let me use that word. Deregulation, for instance, right? People at the center find it difficult to do because of lack of legitimacy and things like that. But if you are with your people, like Chief Awolowo did when he was going to introduce free education, they were taxed. It cost him the 1956 election to the House of National Assembly. But then, you see, it was the government of the people, and he was able to. So that this is the situation that we find ourselves in, unfortunately.
You say that no matter who is president, nothing will change.
Nothing will change.
What if the structure changes? Because it would seem that we tend to realize that once in a while that we do have a very heavy central government, and as such we've tried to rejig the national conferences that have been held, where at least a lot of people felt that it would be something that would change things structurally in such a way that maybe the weight would not be so heavy on the center. Why do you think that exactly hasn't worked or trickled down as we have thought it would?
Because it is easy to destroy, and very difficult to rebuild. If you work the history of Nigeria back from now till 1966, the logic of what I'm saying will be apparent to you. Nigeria, a large part of our structure resulted not from any goodness of the country, but as a strategy of winning the civil war. The 12 states creation, for instance, was really directed at breaking the back of Biafra. Not that this is what Nigeria was suitable for the country. And so when the system are being tinkered with without regard to how it will serve the people. We look at the creation of states, for instance. Right? There is no serious country that will pander to the kind of what we have had by the creation of states. States that are not viable become a body, on people. But you have to, these are the kind of things that when these states were being created, there was no long-term perspective. It was more or less whimsical, or maybe people can put pressure on some people to place it. But in terms of looking at Nigeria's development in that perspective, I don't need to say so. This creation of states
I need to break it down to make it a little bit easy and not too complex for the average Nigerian. We're talking about leadership, we're talking about internal democracy. We have seen that quite lately, or it has become the tradition in the country that when, for instance, when people leave office, you were DJ of NAN, when people leave office, that's when they get to see what they should have done. If you, as a politician, if tomorrow you happen to be a governor of a state or in charge of a ministry, it is only when you leave that ministry you get to see the mistakes or the ills or things that you should have done. That is what worries some Nigerians. You say no, that's not correct.
I don't agree with it at all. I mean, you should go into an office, you should have a vision of what you want to achieve.
But we've always had comments. We've always had comments by notable politicians when they leave office, they drop it and people say, oh, wait a minute, is this what exactly it is?
Then the person was not competent enough. If you have to do something first, you have to perform a task that we are not prepared for. It's only after you finish the task that we are now saying this is what I should have done. That's an illogical basis on which you run a society. You have to have a vision.
They don't say this is what I should have done. They now say the next man who comes on the saddle, they try to dictate what he should be doing, knowing full well that sometimes some of these things they never did it.
I don't get you. Are we talking about godfathers and things like that or what?
Well, I don't want to drop some names. For instance, Mr. Akin Oshotobu, you were a Director General of NAN, and you have left. And now, from the outside, you start to dictate what should be the things that the new DG should do. That is what we have seen politicians do. When they leave office, they try to give a prescription for those who occupy such offices. And Nigerians are a little bit worried that if you were of this know-how or knowledge, why is it that you didn't put all of this to change the country, to change the nation, or to change that agency?
Well, okay, you need people being wise after the event. Listen, the Nigerians we are very good at pontification and punditry, but that's why you have the problem is implementation. You have good policy design on paper, you have philosophies, but then put it to practice. Then you have encounter a problem on that. But even for what you have said, I mean, should any sane society be run that way? That it is somebody, look, by the time you are going into an office, because development is not rocket science. is not unique to Nigeria. How society developed have been for ages. There's nothing so, an experience, development is cumulative experience. Everybody, you are supposed to add something to it, that is how societies grow. Not that somebody who was there will now set it. If the person set a good standard, right? Yes. And what I'm saying is also it doesn't reflect well on anybody taking dictation from outside. What it means is that we are not competent to hold the office in the first place. If you are going to an office, the assumption is that if it's your own free will, you are contesting an election. What you are telling you is that you are the best for that job and competent to do it. So that is the assumption that gets you the job.